Hello, viewers. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of Novel Ideas. My name is James Floyd Kelly, and I'm here with my friend Eric Wex. Welcome, Eric. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
I am well. I don't know how weather is up in your Portland area, but here in Atlanta, it's a brisk 40. No snow.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah,
you are having a worse winter than us. So when it's cold on the East Coast, it's warm on the West Coast.
it's
Our snowpack in the mountains is less than 10% of what it should be,
that
which
means
which
nothing to this southern boy. It means
which
nothing.
means massive salmon die-offs and all sorts of fun stuff next summer. So
That's not good. I love salmon, so that's
you know
not good.
you know it. So
Uh,
buy your salmon now.
you heard it from the man.
Put it in the freezer now.
There's going to be a shortage. Somebody out there is going to write that into a story. There you go. You should get
Seriously.
credit. So listen, viewers, again, Season 2, Episode 3, thank you for joining us. This is obviously Novel Ideas. If you're just now discovering us, you're probably discovering us either through Geek Dad or through another method, which is iTunes, right, Eric?
We are now on iTunes. Woohoo!
Woo! Oh, the affiliation with Apple continues.
That's right. That's right. We'll have an Apple branded podcast soon enough, right? Yeah, branded
We'll have a
foreheads.
tattoo or something. It'll be required. All podcasts must have tattoos.
Exactly.
So listen, this is really cool, and you already know this, but this week we received an email from a viewer named Cindy.
Yay, Cindy!
Hey, thank you, Cindy. She had like a lot of questions,
Yeah, I think we should answer them.
and we probably should. They were, great questions, a lot of questions, a very lengthy email. So Cindy, we're going to try to answer as many as we can in the time we have. We may go a little longer because you did say that you kind of thought that we should go longer than 15 minutes, and we'll try to figure out what's a good medium between, say, 15 minutes and 30 minutes. Does that sound about right, Eric?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, because really, honestly, after about 30 minutes, I'm tired of Eric. I've got to
I don't listen to podcasts. There's some really great podcasts out there that are an hour long, and
Yeah.
I struggle to take an hour out of my day to listen. So we want to keep it short enough that people
Right.
can get a bite-sized chunk and keep moving.
And seriously,
It needs to be the length of a shower and a
right?
shave.
Yes.
Right? Like you're showering and you're shaving, and then you're done with the podcast.
Right. And I don't know. Would we listen to ourselves? Probably not. I don't know.
I would. I'm vain enough.
Yeah. You're vain enough. I'm just on to the next. I frequently have to ask you, what episode is this?
Right.
I've lost track. Well, anyway, listen. Let's get to some of Cindy's questions because we are going to run out of time. I'm gonna, these are sort of. I'm gonna ask these sort of out of order because I think some of them can be answered very quickly.
Right.
Here's one that she wanted to know. She wanted to know, Eric, how do you keep a handle on all of the characters and technology details when you're writing your fiction stuff?
It's a problem. It's actually a big problem. And while I'm taking a small hiatus from the universe here, I would really like to dedicate some time. I actually have a website, which I'm not going to name because it's not for public consumption right now, but a Pax Empire website exists, right? And you can, there is a wiki, which I would love to have some fans help me put together and actually turn into something useful. But that is really what I'm headed for, is a wiki to keep track of things, because at this point the universe is big, and I'm going to run into some pretty serious consistency issues if I'm not careful.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, this is just an aside. It's something I read yesterday that I thought was just absolutely phenomenal. I'm reading a series of books called Designers and Dragons. It's a 4-part book series about role-playing games and how they developed from the 70s up to today.
Yeah.
And I read the section yesterday on West End Games, which produced the very first Star Wars role-playing game.
Right.
And in that section, I found out that Timothy Zahn, who wrote the first 3 trilogies,
Right.
that take place after Episode 6, he was talking about how the Star Wars universe was so large, and the technology and the characters and the worlds was so much information that he referred to these documents that were created by West End Games. Specifically, he called one called the Star Wars Companion or Compendium, and he said he used it while he was writing because it kept track of all of the names and the technologies and worlds and stuff you really can as a science fiction writer, especially if you're writing cutting edge stuff or stuff that doesn't exist. If you're not keeping track of it, it'll get out of control.
It has. I mean, the Pax Empire is wonderful and it's rich and it continues to get richer, but it is pretty big, and I really have to be careful.
Well, listen, one question that Cindy wanted to ask that was similar to that one was she wanted to know, do you keep detailed profiles on your characters?
You know, for me, characters are the lifeblood of a story. So I don't keep close, detailed profiles on characters. If for some reason I'm dealing with a character that I haven't thought about for a while, I will go back and read about that character in the past. But I'll read what I've written. And often I'm like, pleasantly surprised that that character was more filled out and a better character than I thought, and that gives me some stuff to work with. Um, and 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 I don't find that I need like a big Bible of characters because, to be honest, if they're minor enough, I can go back and read them because it's a short 5-minute chunk to read. If they're a major character, I kind of know them inside and out. I've inhabited their skin long enough to figure it out. So.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of fiction authors state that usually by the time they're well into the book, writing the book, the characters are almost like a cousin or a family member that they know well enough that, and what they don't know, they make up.
Yep.
That's the whole
Yep.
part of it. So, Cindy wanted to also know, these are some great questions, just overall general questions for you, Eric. She wants to know, I would love to hear more about building an audience. Do you try to go to science fiction conventions and get on panels or in dealers' rooms? What steps do you do to build your audience?
I love panels. I love panels. That's one of the reasons I do a podcast. Is I actually really enjoy engaging an audience. If I could figure out a way to do this podcast with a big audience in front of me all the time, I would do that. I think it's really a lot of fun. So yes, but you have to be a person who likes talking in front of groups, and that's not all of us. Like, so whatever you're going to do to build your audience needs to actually fit you individually. There are some authors who are solely online. There are some authors who are published traditionally and go a very traditional route and still do the bookstore tours and all that stuff. And all of those things can work. I know an author who has over 800 people on her mailing list because she hand sells books at like Saturday markets, and she's not really there to sell books. She's actually there to ask people to sign up for her email list, which is a much easier ask.
Right.
And they don't come off. They're interested to know about a local author, and they might not buy your book at first, but when you talk to them 6 or 7 times, you get a chance to actually interact with them. So, an email list is a really important tool, I think, for an author. It's probably the best, most important way that you can build your audience is to make sure whatever you do that you're creating an email list.
Yeah, and I think another big one is if you intend to grow your audience, you have to be writing something that's good, that's going to appeal to, because if you have a fan base of 10 people and nobody else, they're not going to, that's it.
Edit, and edit
right.
again.
Hey, she did ask Cindy asked some additional questions that I think we're going to have to probably convert into a complete. You tell me if I'm wrong here, but she wants to know some more about how you use Scrivener when it comes to outlining. That might be something that we have to, do with you.
Well, we could do. We certainly can dive into it, but I could give you a quick summary of my outlining process right now.
Sure.
And I think it's a resource that we've talked about before. I really like Rachel Aaron. Her book 2K to 10K, which we've talked about several times on this podcast, I think is a very important foundation if you're trying to figure out how to outline a novel. She gives you 5 steps, and they're definitely worth using. So that's one. The second thing that I really do is combine that with a book called Save the Cat, which is a screenwriting book, and that one we've talked about as well. So I use the 15 beats from Save the Cat as part of my Rachel Aaron process when she's talking about laying out your plot. So that's where I'm laying out my 15 beats and I'm filling them in with how many scenes per beat and that kind of question. And then the third piece is for me when I'm actually doing that work is Scapel, and we've talked about Scapel before on the podcast. So I am using Scapple, and I'm in Scapple, um, and actually writing those things out as a Scapple document or a series of Scapple documents that I keep in a file. I don't tend to outline in Scrivener. I don't think Scrivener. I've done some of it. In fact, Gravelander was outlined in Scrivener, so it's becoming more part of my process, but I haven't yet. One of the things you can do in Scrivener is you can take the meta tags, and this is for people who are deep into Scrivener. You can take the meta tags and you can make them the 15 beats, and I find that to be really helpful. And then as I'm outlining a piece, I'm tagging which beat does that actually fit. So Scrivener with the meta tags plus the 15 beats is a really nice way to do that. But I'm not doing extensive outlining in Scrivener yet, though I kind of think it might be trending that way.
Let me ask my own version of that question.
Sure.
A sort of a spin on it. When I outline a book, nonfiction, everything I do is digital. I mean, I use Evernote a lot.
Yeah, Evernote, great.
Yeah, I love Evernote. I rarely ever, and I've noticed this in the past 3 or 4 years. Years ago, I would actually have a piece, notebook or some paper, and I would actually sort of handwrite things that occurred to me. Once I discovered Evernote, paper went out the door. I never use paper anymore. Do you ever find yourself like if you're out and about, do you write? Are you one of those writers that scribbles on napkins when an idea pops in your head, or do you?
I am trying to use OneNote for that. So I am not super good at capturing those ideas. I just am not, and particularly when I'm driving, what I would like to start doing is using OneNote plus my iPhone and record things and then put them into OneNote. So the answer is I'm not super good at catching those ideas. Often I find that the ideas kind of self-sort a little bit if I don't write them down. It's the idea that comes back several times that I'm likely to write about. So.
Hey, I keep looking out the window. I apologize, but there's like this noise going on out there. There's somebody's parked in our cul-de-sac doing some drilling. I think they're drilling for oil. You're not hearing that, are you?
No. That's awesome, man. As long as the fracking earthquakes don't get too bad, make sure you get a license on that stuff, all right?
Exactly. And I have no mineral rights to the cul-de-sac. So.
There you are. That's too bad.
Well, the funny thing about nonfiction versus fiction, and I actually am kind of dipping my toes in some fiction writing. I've been doing it little by little because you kind of convinced me. I'm really discovering that some of the things that you do to write, some of the methods you use, they just don't work for me. And I'm okay.
Yeah, right.
I like Scrivener, but I use Scrivener when I'm doing something in Scrivener right now. What I'm finding is that most of what I'm writing is occurring in Evernote, and then I'm copying and pasting it into Scrivener, and it's almost post-draft.
Yeah, but that's great. I mean, I just like the way Scrivener. The thing that I think makes Scrivener powerful is that it's so flexible in the way that you can use it. You can use it 15 different ways, and it's an incredibly powerful tool. So, you are welcome to use it the way you want. What's going on outside, James?
I can't tell if they're like coring through the cement to maybe find a pipe or something. Viewers, awesome. You never know what you're going to get when you tune in. Well, they're just making a lot of racket, and I'm like, okay, I hope that's not showing up in the sound. But the viewers, if you have questions, Cindy submitted a bunch of them, and actually we haven't been able to hit them all, Eric. Some of them we had kind of mentioned that we might hold off on it. Sure. But viewers, obviously, as you can see, if you've got some questions, if you want Eric to speak on something, or myself, or if you just have a topic or a specific question, please let us know, and we'll be happy to at least let you know our thoughts on it. Eric we've done, before season 2 started, we had how many episodes? 22 for season 1?
We had 22 for season 1. Yeah.
So there's 22 back episodes in season 1 where Eric gave examples of using Scrivener, of using how he what was the thing again? The outline? I'm sorry. Scalpel. I always have trouble with that one. So, and these were like videos that he demonstrated how he uses them. So you may want to go back if those topics interest you. definitely you're going to want to check out some of the older episodes.
So
Eric,
we're gonna get the older episodes up on iTunes shortly.
okay.
That hasn't been done yet. It's one of the projects that I'm going to get to soon.
Yeah.
But
Please,
for now, they're on my YouTube channel. So Eric Wex on YouTube. You can find me there.
well, Cindy wanted us to go a little longer, so we've gone about 3 minutes longer. We want to be careful. We don't want to go too long because we have had some people say they like the short.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just do this. I think what we definitely need to do for Cindy's sake is she wants to know a little bit more about how you use Scribner. So maybe we'll touch on that in an upcoming episode.
Yeah, I would like that. There's a million different ways to use Scribner. So the way I use Scribner is not the way the next person will use Scribner. So
yeah,
it's such a great tool.
Before we sign off, what are you working on? If you don't mind me asking.
What am I working on? It's actually the official publication day of my nonfiction HOA management book. So if you live in an HOA or if you're on a board of an HOA, you need to pick up a copy of Trade HOA Stress for Success. So I've been working on the final edits and all that updates and all that stuff for that. And then I am working on a second edition of my financial book, How to Manage Your Money When You Don't Have Any. I have that off at the copy editors right now, and I'm thinking I've enjoyed this time away from fiction because it's really gotten me percolating some fun ideas. So I'm working on some ideas and definitely going to be headed back to Gossamer shortly so that I can finish out the superhero origin story about a 14-year-old who's genetically modified in a bioterror attack. 14-year-old girl who's genetically modified in a bioterror attack.
Let's mention real quickly. This is a fiction story that you're writing with your daughter, right?
Yes, that's one of the fun pieces of it. Is I have a 15-year-old daughter, and we are writing that together, and that's been an awesome collaborative process. So,
if people want to find out more, what do they go to Eric Wex or do they go to the Gossamer website?
You can go to Gossamer's Army on Facebook. Gossamer's Army is probably the place to hang out if you want to know what's going on with Gossamer, and we've loaded up samples there. Or you can join my mailing list at ericwex.com. You'll find a link on the front page of that website to join my mailing list, and I'm making sure that those people get the samples as well.
All right. Well, listen, viewers, again, if you got any questions, please send them to us. And Cindy, if you have more questions, please send them to us. Great questions, and I hope we answered some of them, and we'll certainly try to get to some of your other questions in later episodes. So.
Yeah, let's do a Scribner episode soon. That would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, listen, my friend, it was good talking to you.
Good talking with you.
And good luck with the HOA book. Today's the publication date, you said, right?
Today is the official publication date. Yeah, the paperback's actually been available for a little while, but the Kindle editions went out this morning, and yeah, it's doing well. It's doing good.
Well, good luck. Well, listen, we'll talk next week.
All right, take care.